Welcome back to the Week 4 Roundup video. This week we're talking about the topic of urban vernacular. Thanks again for your sharing and your post question. In this week's learning, we bring the concept of city as a cultural milieu regarding people's life in the city. Like urban buildings are often in cooperative habitation and production. We also bring the idea that the place of a building in the city, like how buildings are arranged in the urban area. And we showcase different types of urban vernacular building, including Japanese townhouse, South Asia bungalow house, Asian shop house, and urban building in Nepal. So to start off our discussion today, we would like to clarify the vernacular architectures of a building type. Comparing with the rural vernacular example shown in the video, they are all of the same type and built in a particular region. But in the urban situation, the vernacular architectures have different styles, like the bungalow house, shop house, and townhouse. So the question here is, take the shop house as an example. Are all of the urban shop house can be considered as the same vernacular, even though some of them are neoclassical, some of them are modernist? Or do we have two vernacular architecture here, one being the set of neoclassical and the other the modernist shop house? Or do we ascribe the vernacular architecture of all the shop house in the city are the most predominant style? So, Norman, what's your thought about this question?
Well, first of all, I think the word style is very sensitive in the realm of architecture, and also style and typology, style and type can easily be confused. But when we talk about typology, like courtyards that you find all over Asia, China, it's a typology, but it's not a style. When we talk about Tulou, again, it's a typology. So I guess when you compare style of a townhouse being modern or being neoclassical, that could be an influence from the cultural context, the timing when it's built, and the construction techniques over time that has evolved. So so that is just a stylistic influences.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my understanding of the style is that, like for instance, when we talk about Gothic style, there is certain element that we can identify. For instance, the red vound, the flying buttress, these are the element that we can identify. This is a Gothic style, but vernacular is not a style, right?
Yeah, I think we have to understand. I guess my understanding of how style fits into to vernacular is that it is just a part of the vernacular. We can't say there's a particular style that is in vernacular sense. So, for example, like when we're talking about the shop houses, right? You will see different styles present, but when we look at it as a whole, they're all vernacular, right? The style is how people, through historical context or even cultural context, social context, it's how they dress it up. But at the end of the day, the vernacular is the shop house itself, right? It's not the style. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So okay, thanks for Abdul and Norman. So our next questions will be concerning about the high-rise residential buildings in the modern city. So, yeah, Peter?
Yeah,
please.
so there's a question by learner Faxon Beverly, who comments that modernist residential towers, he's surprised that they're considered as vernacular, that we would consider them as vernacular. And I kind of wanted to go into this a little bit. I appreciate Faxon Beverly, your analysis and your interpretation. You say these are not ordinary, they are entirely dependent on technology developed since the Industrial Revolution, such as elevators and steel. As such, they can never be designed or built by ordinary people. There are no traditions to pass along. And I think it's important to note that when we talk about vernacular architecture, it's not talking about old rustic buildings only, right? This is not what we're limiting our attention to. If we're only talking about old buildings, then the study of vernacular architecture is very static and it doesn't evolve with time. We're only talking about a specific point in time, if that's the case, which is not actually what we're trying to do. The study of vernacular architecture is evolving, right? And we are constantly evaluating buildings and context and landscape as they're built, even ones that are built in 2018. We can still evaluate them to be vernacular or not. Whether the technology that's used to build them was invented before the Industrial Revolution or after has really no bearing on whether it's vernacular or not. If you are to limit it in that way, then I think we're ignoring a lot of the topics that we discuss, such as materials and architecture. And then we should only be talking about the most primitive of building materials, but that's not the case. We actually need to look at it in terms of what is the economic factors that go into a building being built? What are the cultural factors? Facts on Beverly goes on to say that this building type does not seem to me to be the most likely buildings to be built in a particular place at a particular time, because it's completely driven by international capital, not ordinary people's needs or wants. And again, I have to disagree here. I think that when we talk about what is the most likely to be built at a particular place at a particular time, you have to consider many things. People are living, for example, in Hong Kong, where we are right now, right? And it's a hub, it's an international hub, and people are moving here. People are living in a city that's very dense and very populated. As I'm sure Facts on Beverly knows, it's simply not realistic for everyone to be living in a house or everyone to be given a plot of land. And the economic factors here dictate that the density is much different than it is in other places. So when we look at density and we look at how that influences the architecture here, there's also some things that pop up that are unique to Hong Kong, that define the vernacular architecture in Hong Kong as being different from the vernacular architecture in Toronto or in San Francisco, even though they have high-rise in all these places. The local building codes here are very specific to the environment, right? They're very specific to the climate as well, in terms of requirements for wind loads, typhoons. It's very specific to the economic factors as well, in terms of how much you can build, how high you can build, things like this. So in a way, this is still very specific to the context. And it's really, I would say, it's exactly the most likely buildings to be built in a particular place at a particular time, due to many factors.
Sorry, I just want to add something a little bit to that. I think for our a bit older generations, I've talked to people older generations. They would come. I was once had a story given to me was when they talked about how in Hong Kong, say 50 years ago, for say $200, you were able to buy. You had enough money to buy one room. But nowadays, for that same amount of money, you're essentially buying a tile inside the bathroom. So over time, like the factor of time and economics, why it's so important is that it shows you these factors can influence how much someone wants and someone's need as well, right? So nowadays, they mentioned that developers are all driven by economics, but they still have to look at what are the demands of the society, right? If the society can only afford, smaller units, then they have to provide these small units. And then the other level is that we're talking about how people utilize the space. I think that's very important, right? I think Peter was talking before. It's not just about a space, but how people use a space is also very important.
Yeah.
That makes it vernacular.
I think just in general, this week's topic, the concept, the urban vernacular, might be a bit of a dichotomy in some people's minds, right? When we think of vernacular, we tend to think of the rural, the rustic, the tradition, right? Which, of course, tradition is one component of this. But when we talk about the urban vernacular, we have to consider that there will be buildings, there will be typologies that exist that oppose this traditional type of method, things that are passed on over time. So I could go on, but I think we kind of get to the point. We can move
Yeah, I
on.
think the key is to look beyond just the building as for themselves, but what the layers that build into it, right? The history, how it's used, all that stuff. That's what vernacular. I think that's the difference between vernacular and style. Style is actually very easily, you look at it architecturally, you can tease out what makes it a certain style, right? But vernacular, when we're talking about vernacular, you have to really look at the whole picture, right? Like the hardware and the software both has to be discussed in order to see it, right? Traditional, when we're talking about tradition, yeah, like if we look at things in the past, you have a greater amount of time to build up that tradition. But like you said, things that are built in 2008, you know, it's as a smaller sample size or shorter time to be able to build that tradition, but it's there. It's just that you have to read into it a bit more.
Right. So it's a process. Yeah. So our last questions would be the role of architects. So if these vernacular buildings are so good at creating the essential patterns of life, should we remove architects like us from these designs and let the people to create their own house? Right. So Carol, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't think so, because last month I visited a friend who lived in Lima, and she told me that she still and her family still build their own house. Maybe in that case they only need builder, but once you come to like a highly densified cities, maybe builder. It depends on like the scale of the project, and also if the project is related to the public safety.
Right.
Maybe
right.
you need some professional to help you.
Right.
An architect will take this role, and then maybe architect is a good like observer to modify like how to put the local conditions into a new kind of building form. Like I think in the future, architect may be a more important role, how to merge the local culture into a new building form and to become a local vernacular architecture.
That's our job here.
Yeah.
I think the last sentence in that person's question, Lucy G. Campbell, said, I think there is an argument for more user participation in the design process. I think that's fine. There's no one arguing against that. I don't think anyone's going to say we need less user participation in architecture. I think it's about what the role that architects play and how we can facilitate a better built environment despite the circumstances.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's been said, but like our role probably becomes more of a facilitator, like a mediator of per se, right? More participation, that's great, but to take out someone to mediate this whole process would kind of cause chaotic situation. So we can't see architects as someone that has all the control over something. No, I think we take on the role as a facilitator, a mediator, to get all the different parties to work together. I think that would be more of a role that we will take on as we move forward.
And I think that's also the beauty of our course. They will learn from these vernacular architectures and we learn the way how they respond, like in way 2, respond to the climate and the building material, and how this physical form can reflect the culture. So with that conclusion, we can conclude this week's Roundup video. Like we always try to emphasize that the vernacular architecture is a product, but at the same time, it's a process. So next week, we will delve into a much more comprehensive urban vernacular phenomenon, which we term it as informal settlement. So stay with us, and we'll see you next week.